Hello, we are live, and immediately, as soon as we went live, Harris sodded off.
I thought I had a couple seconds. I'm not that fast.
Stuff it. Oops. I'm loving your shirt today, Harris. That is absolutely stunning. Well done, sir. I designed that. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the hell you are in the world, and welcome to Sidetrack, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. And if I'm talking quickly, it's because I've literally ran up, turned computer on, and gone, go! Because I got the time wrong. I'm sorry. And I've got a really bad head as well. Oh, man. But anyway, so today, guys, we are going to be talking about the Stargate movie and what we would like to see. But obviously, first of all, we've got to do the that bit. Because it's Stargate Live Sunday for 3 weeks in a row, guys. We're doing really well. I feel very organised. So, right. Obviously, we've heard this news, but I've got a little bit of an update for you. So, my phone rang at 2 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning. So, I answered the phone and I went, who's dead? Somebody must be dead. If you're phoning me at 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody better be dead. And then I got a voice. And now, Matt, you'll know who I mean. It's the person that normally emails us that actually works at MGM, not the other one. So I got this phone call, and they're chatting away to me. And they goes, "I'm so sorry, I forgot about the time difference." And they'd had a couple of drinks after work, so it was like 8 o'clock in America. So it was like 3 o'clock here, and I was just like, "Oh, thank you so much for that." But anyway, I then panicked because I thought they're phoning me. It must be that MGM has discovered them, and covered this. But I started to stress, thinking, "Oh Jesus, they know who they are, and they've been sacked, right?" But they haven't. They were phoning me because they'd had several meetings through the week, and apparently, this plan of Jennifer Salke's to do a movie has gone down like a lead balloon. And we talked about it beforehand that it seemed to be that everyone else wanted to do a series, but Jennifer Salke was like, no, movie. And we've got all this money that Amazon want to do cinematic releases, and one of them is going to be Stargate. So all the people, executives, or whatever, start talking, and apparently this has really gone down badly at MGM. They really don't like it. So they did an internal survey, like what we did. Do you want a movie or do you want a TV show? And apparently they asked 5,000 plus people somewhere and did this survey. And the basically answer was very similar to ours. It was something like 80-something% that want a TV series and don't want a movie. And the one question, apparently, they did like a bunch of different questions, but one of them was, do you want a movie at all? And a bunch of people said no. And my signal's rubbish in it. Can you see me all right?
Yeah.
That's not great.
A little bit jittery, but you're all right.
Okay. Sorry. Oh, such a bad head. It feels like there's a knitting needle sticking in the back of my head there and in my temple there. So at any point I just go, that's why. Okay.
Do you have an aspirin or an Excedrin nearby?
No, I haven't took anything. But
what was that last one?
An Excedrin?
We don't get that.
Oh, those are the best because that shit'll. It's gone.
We have paracetamol, aspirin, and ibuprofen, and that's basically it.
No Advil, no Aleve, no. In the U.S., we've got 70 different types of pills for each little thing you could have.
Yeah. When we were in New York, my wife had she was really not well with the flu, and we got this stuff, and we were like looking for a Lemsip basically, and it was like, we don't know any of these drugs names, don't know what any of them are. And then she found this stuff, and it was just amazing. It's like she felt better almost instantly. And but when we got back, we're like, what were we taking? Clue?
Hell if I know. You think we're great because we just have so many options of random stuff, but all of us end up going to Canada or Mexico and just taking their drugs and bring them back in our suitcases. Yeah. Because they're drugstores, you can go walk in and grab whatever you want. So
sweet.
It's great.
Well, anyway, let's start talking about Stargate. So I've had a few questions. People going, why don't they just do a series after the movie? And I keep trying to say to people, The plan was always franchise. The plan was always TV series. Jennifer Salke's just got into her that she wants to do a movie first. So let's see how that develops, because it seems like Jennifer Salke's the only one that wants a movie first.
That was always the case, though, wasn't it? It was always the case that she was the only one who wanted a movie, but she was pushing so hard for it.
Mm-hmm.
And because she's like the head, she gets her way. So we just have to suck it up, basically.
Well, yeah, but it seems like everyone else is going to have to suck it up. But I know that Michael Wright, who's the head of MGM Plus, was really not happy about this. And he says that, look, all this work has been done. We've always been gearing up towards a TV series. Penguin and Parker have done all this work gearing up towards a TV series. And then last minute, you turn around and go, let's do a movie. And it's like, it's just like, why? Why? Why?
Yeah.
So that's the
work Parker have done. Going to be using the movie. They're going to have to do something else.
Yeah.
Or work around what they've done.
Yeah.
To lead what they've done.
Do you know, like, the one thing I'm gonna do a video on this. Everything I've learned about how the movie industry and stuff works over the last 2 years, talking to people since we started the Sidetrack thing, and I always assumed there were plans and people that actually knew what they were talking about, and like, things were planned years in advance because these things cost so much money to produce, and excuse me, and that they it seems to me, instead of there being plans and clever people, it seems like there's a bunch of headless chickens wandering around going, what are we going to do now? It's just there seems to be no coherency to it. It's like we've said it for a few times. This is like a roller coaster. It's like there's all a pig in time. It's just like
it's basically they have their own little meetings and they're like, quick, we need an idea. What have you got? And then someone will go, James Bond. Oh yeah, we'll do that. Stargate. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Should we do a series? Yeah. Jennifer Salke walks in. Let's do a movie. No, we don't like that. We're doing a movie.
We've just spent 2 years not doing, planning something else, and we're doing a movie. Oh, for fuck's sake. But yeah, so it shocks me. I'm gonna get into it and do a couple of videos on it on the side channel, probably, like everything I've learned about how the movie industry works. But it's astonishing how it doesn't. It's like how it just doesn't work. But anyway, so today's video, we were going to have a think about if this movie gets made, what movie do you want to see? You guys been thinking about it? You brought a couple of ideas. Oh God, that hurts so badly. Really,
I'll be honest, I didn't know the title of this video until I joined.
I second that note.
Over the last 2 weeks, I've repeatedly said, bring movie ideas, guys. So, okay, you just have to think of one. I know Harris is...
I've got ideas for the movie, but yeah.
Okay.
I've been so busy this week. I've not looked at my phone that much, to be completely honest.
I've been out of town, so I'm going to use that excuse as well. But I did yesterday. My happy little high self was coming up with a spin-off of Eris Bach, with Matt already making fun of me because Eris Bach is the character that should have been used everywhere and always, and we only got him once. So I've got a whole
alive
Junior.
I love that. I love that character. So the bounty hunter. So you want to see a bounty hunter movie?
I think, obviously I haven't finished Stargate Atlantis or Stargate Universe. I'm still slowly but surely finishing my way. But if Stargate Universe is kind of that type of show people like on a ship, why not use some bounty hunter stuff going on and just make it fun? Have a good time with it. Explore
so
the galaxy.
Eris Bach is the Boba Fett of Stargate for you.
And Han Solo.
Book of Eris Bach.
I'll take it. That'd be better than what we got.
Well, I mean, the thing for the movie, I'd love to see something like that in the extended. I almost said extended universe then, but I immediately sort of had a DC sort of pain, and not even just this pain, another one. I don't want an extended universe, but I'd love to see something like that in when we start. If they do like that Marvel style, lots of little mini series and things, which I'd love. Something like that would be amazing to go off and I think, oh Christ, I really wish I'd had half an hour to sit down and lie down. It's so painful. To like wander off and see his character do something, not just in one episode, but like 5 or 6 episodes. That would be cool. I would enjoy that.
That'd be so much fun. And that's the way to
Get
set
to know
up.
a little bit more about his backstory as well. That'd be quite interesting. Why he ended up the way he is. I mean, I think it does touch on it on the episode, but like actually like properly delve into it.
Well, the only things we have are that one episode, and then they have one comic book, which I ordered the comic book, and it ended up being a collector's edition on accident. I only paid $25 for a collector's edition, so I'm a happy camper.
Very cool. Very cool. So we did a poll on the channel, and we basically said, what do you want from a movie? We had well over 1,500 votes. So thank you very much, guys, whoever voted. I said, do we want an SG1 style movie? Would we want something maybe based around SGA? Would we want maybe something around SGU? Would you want a hard reboot? Or you're not bothered as long as it's not a hard reboot? So 25% of people said, I don't care as long as it's not a hard reboot. And I'm like, respect. About 7%, I think it was, said, I want a hard reboot. And I understand the thinking, but no, thank you. But we'll discuss each option. SG1 was the next biggest, like 20%. Atlantis came in about 10%. But SGU came in at like a third. I think it was like 36% of people said, I want an SGU movie. What are your... While I cry over here a second.
It's the biggest like crying point for any Stargate fan that SGU didn't get a conclusion. Yes, I've spoken about this. We've spoken about this so many times. The first season, whatever. You like it, you don't like it, whatever. The second season was really good, and it was getting.
No, wait a sec. Really good?
Yes, really good. I really like Stargate Universe. I will die on the hill that Stargate Universe is like top tier.
You're saying it's top draw. You're comparing it to SG1 and SGA. Top draw.
Yeah, they're all top draw. Stargate Universe
compared to the rest of compared to other sci-fi, I'm 100% with you. It's better than most of the rest of the crap we have to put up with. But compared to SG1,
no. But SG1 had a finale. SG1 was over. That had a satisfying ending. SG Atlantis also had somewhat of a satisfying ending. It wasn't like fully closed off, but it ended the threat that was ongoing. In that season, in Stargate Universe, it all just like went to pot, and they went into stasis. And it's all...
The second season was amazing.
It was amazing.
It wasn't. It was better than the first. It was still quite boring.
No, it wasn't.
So from someone who hasn't seen it at all and loves Stargate, but also loves general sci-fi, how would each of you compare it to the first season of The Expanse?
That's better than The Expanse.
I prefer it for The Expanse, yeah.
Okay.
The Expanse is good.
I think
I do really like The Expanse, but I prefer SGU.
If you're going to compare any Stargate series to The Expanse, I think you should compare SGU to it. SGU is the most similar style, and I mean, because Expanse is, it's a very serious, takes itself quite seriously, and so does The Expanse. It takes itself seriously. It's a serious show. SG1 and SGA, don't get me wrong, they're serious shows still, but they had a bit of fun. So SGU is the one that I would stylistically say is closest.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I'm just trying to see if I can do a
little poll.
But I'm wondering if I can do it in the...
There's a way to do it in chat. I couldn't tell you how.
So if you're going to do a... I'll see if that works in a minute, because I've never done it before, so we'll see if I can do a poll while we're live. So sorry, mind wandering. I can't see how to do it, so I'm not going to try. So if they were to do an SGU movie, then I quite like the idea of it ending where it started, if that makes sense. So it's like, starting where it ended. So it'd be like that cyclical thing. So right, so SGU, but some people, some of the comments we've had is SGU killed Stargate, so why would you go back to it and start it again?
I don't think it was the show that killed Stargate. Looking at everything that happened around that time, it wasn't the show that was the problem. Sci-fi was probably the biggest problem by moving the slot.
Yeah,
that's why the ratings tanked initially. Yeah, there was the vocal minority, and it is a minority who. Well, I'm not going to watch that because it's stylistically very different to SGA and SG1, but it was still. Well, look at all the people who want SGU.
Yeah,
there are hundreds of thousands of us, like
millions.
Maybe. There were loads of us. Like it was a good show.
Boring. But anyway, yeah, man, my head is killing me. It's really killing me. It's put me in a bad mood, so I'm just going to destroy both of you. Right, so, right. So Stargate ended with SGU, right?
Yes,
and it ended because of poor ratings, and that's just fact. When the guy and I think sci-fi, I don't agree with you that they changed the slot and that's what killed it. They were trying to do anything they could. I mean, the guy that was the chief exec, the second chief exec of sci-fi at the time, actually wrote an open letter that was published on Gateworld, and he basically apologized. He said, you know, we love this show. We really thought it was going to be more than it was, and we really did everything we could to do it. And one of the things was we even tried to change the time slot to see if we could find the audience, and nothing worked. I would argue the same. It was getting better. Stargate Universe was getting better, but I don't think it ever got to the point of being good. Not compared to SG1 and SG Atlantis. It wasn't. It was too.
But the ratings being so low wasn't the reason it ended anyway. It was the bankruptcy.
The bankruptcy, again, it's one of those things that they'd already decided after the 2 seasons. Everyone was signed up for 2 seasons. So if they'd gone to a 3rd season, it would have cost more to make because they'd have had to have signed everybody up again, the actors, etc. So cost more to run. The Canadian dollar was really strong against the American dollar at the time, so it was costing more to run, to make. The bankruptcy, then, I don't think the bankruptcy happened then. Didn't it happen like 3 years after that? I'll have to double check my dates.
No, it happened. It happened pretty much around about the same time. It was 2011.
What is it? Let's have a quick look. So that didn't help, but I mean, lots of other shows survived. MGM. Oh no, that's the MGM Resorts bankruptcy. See, you put in MGM bankruptcy, and lots of things come up. I just think there was like
a load of Stargate projects got canned at the same time. It was SGU obviously was the main one because that's the one that was actually running. But you had the Stargate Atlantis, Extinction, which was the Atlantis movie that was in pre-production that never got made. There was Resurrections. Was it Resurrections or Resolution? Something like that. That was the SG1 movie.
Yeah,
that was in
another SG1 movie. Yeah.
In like pre-production kind of thing. That got canned. And then you had Stargate Worlds, which was an MMO that was pretty much finished, pretty much ready to launch. And then the bankruptcy happened, and they scrapped the whole lot, everything.
I think the SG1 movie didn't happen maybe because Continuum didn't do great as well though. So that didn't help.
I think Continuum's like the strongest out of the 2.
I always like the Ark. I like Ark of Truth. I thought that was great. But
Continuum has Baal in it.
Yeah, anything with Baal in. And RDA back in it and everything. But to get back to the movie then. So if we did an SGU movie, do you want to see, would it be as simple as saying we just go rescue him? Can we do something simple as that? Or does there need to be more to it?
There'll be the overall, I think the overall idea would be in the end they end up getting rescued, but we could see essentially what's happened in the last 10 years with, did Eli manage to fix the pod and put himself in stasis, or did he die? Is he still around? That's got to be one of the biggest questions. Did he sit in the chair? Did he like do that weird ascension thing that that chair does? I can't remember what they called that, but the weird ascension thing. Or did he just die of starvation? What happened to the rest of the crew? What happened from the moment they all went into stasis to the moment where he was no longer on the ship? either dead or in stasis. What happened in between that time? And then we can go back to Earth. We can see what's happened on their side over the last 10 years or so. Power source has been found. They found a planet. Maybe it's in Pegasus. Maybe the Asgard core, because we know that the Asgard have ships that are capable of traveling between galaxies within a matter of hours. Maybe they have developed a hyperdrive engine that could actually reach Destiny. Maybe that's a possibility. Because the problem with
Destiny's has been traveling at light speed for 1 million years.
Yeah, at light speed.
It's not a couple of galaxies away, is it? It's hundreds of galaxies away.
Yeah, that's fine though. But if the Asgard can travel from Ida to Pegasus, from Ida galaxy to the Milky Way in a matter of 2 hours, just imagine how far they could travel in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is how long it takes us to get from Milky Way to Pegasus. It takes 2 weeks with our standard hyperdrives. With the updated ones, how long would it take? Because the problem with the whole rescue thing with Stargate, I've seen people on Facebook specifically posing ideas of how they can rescue them, and they've posed questions like, "Can we use a black hole to dial to Destiny?" The answer to that is probably yes. You can use the power of a black hole to create a stable wormhole that will actually travel across to Destiny. But the problem is, it's a one-way gate, and if you use a black hole, that gate's never going to close.
Yeah.
So they have to find a way to get they have to find a way for Destiny to either dial home or them go to Destiny, and that's what the movie's going to have to be about.
Yeah.
So we get Erisbach's son to go save him.
The problem Harry has is you haven't got this far in the Stargate.
No, I have no idea. So I'm just
fucking what we're talking about. I've always thought
gist of it.
Yeah, I've always actually thought though that the whole idea with the Destiny was that they have this seed ship and it goes off into the deep galaxy and it plants stargates as it goes along. And that they were searching for this mysterious signal that's in the background radiation of the universe. Excuse me. Shouldn't drink Diet Coke live because then it makes me burp, but it helps the headache a little bit. But anyway, I've always thought there must have been there's then crew. If you use the beta canon, the comic book, and this was what Joseph Malozzi and stuff were thinking about doing. So I think we can say it's pretty accurate. There's actually crew aboard the Destiny in stasis, and they woke up. They were supposed to wake up in Series 3, and they were engineers, sort of thing. There must have been a plan for the Ancients to then eventually go to the Destiny. So we know that was the planet that we actually set the first time.
I think the crew that was on Destiny wasn't meant to be there though. I think they accidentally. I think in the comic, I'm pretty sure it was in the shipyard. It was in the shipyard, and it launched, but they were still on board when it launched, and they couldn't get off, so they stuck themselves in stasis.
Yeah, I seem to think it was an accident as well.
Yeah,
yeah. But either way, so at some point, my point is that the Ancients must have had a plan to go. So there must be ways to connect to Stargate, and we know at least one Stargate is attached because it was happened. So that there are ways we can get a Stargate connection to the Destiny. Getting a ship to the Destiny, I think, is I just think 1 million years of travel, and I'm not even sure we're 100% certain we know where they are. The Destiny crew know where they are because I assume they can look at the star charts, but I'm not sure.
They've got where it's traveled from because in the first episode or the first 2 or 3, Eli brings up this thing and it literally says this is Earth and then this is us, and it's literally a line drawing of each galaxy where it's gone to. So they could basically plot it,
phones, haven't we? So we've been able to go back and talk to SG Command. So if one knows, then the other one knows. So yeah, that's right.
Well, if they have Stargates and they can place them places, which just sounds cool, it makes me want to watch it even more. But if they can do that and they have the accessibility to dial, I guess, to certain places, they may not be able to dial all the way back to Earth. But if they could dial all the way to Atlantis, even if they couldn't fit a ship back, couldn't Atlantis just send some puddle jumpers their way and put a bunch of people on them and bring them back?
The power it requires because the Destiny is so far away. In the first episode, they create a wormhole, and it's literally the core of this planet powers the gate. And activating it destroys the planet. there's this chain reaction and everything goes.
It's
when they go
Jonas's planet. You know, Jonas's planet is made up of Quadria.
Yeah,
it's essentially those types of planets, and they literally plug into the planet because it's so reactive. It generates all this massive power, but they can't get the calculations right. So they literally they get the connection, but the calculations are off slightly. So it literally overloads and the planet explodes.
Yeah,
and that's happened twice.
Yeah.
Spoilers, Harris. Spoilers, but that happened.
Well, now I anticipated that much more. That just sounds awesome.
So the pros and cons of doing an SGU movie, right? So I've always said that when you do this movie, they've got to do it in a way that's going to attract new viewers, right? So you can't just, have something that's going to appease. I'm not even going to say gators, because I do think within the Stargate us fan base, there is two camps when it comes to SGU. There's sort of my side of it that's found it a little boring, and then there's the other side of it that genuinely people think it's the best of all the Stargate. And I get that because it's so different. So we all have different opinions, don't we? We do. We like different things. And when something, so I think a lot of people that like SG1 quite like SG Atlantis because it's similar. In lots of ways, it's a similar formula. But SGU was different. It was really different. So I can understand there's two camps. So if you're going to do an SGU movie that's just about SGU, you're immediately going to sort of alienate half of the skaters, aren't you?
Not necessarily. I mean, people from SG1, maybe SGA. I actually can't remember if anyone from SGA, but people from SG1 were in Stargate Universe, so the characters would be there at the very least. I mean, I honestly don't see how they'd make an SG1 movie. We'll go into that afterwards, but I honestly don't see how they'd make that. Atlantis, I can kind of see it, but SGU is the only one that really makes sense. But you can still bring in characters from those other shows because it's all connected, and you can appease everyone by bringing those in.
I'd say I do like the circular sort of feel of starting where we ended, and there's such big questions in SGU that are, again, I think in a movie though might be a bit difficult to sort of answer, because I mean we've got properly like God questions, like a species, not just the background radiation signal that Harris has no freaking clue still what we're talking about. There's also the planet builders.
Yeah,
these were big questions. Can you do that in a 2-hour movie?
Maybe you don't have to. Maybe it could just be something we never find out.
Well, okay, so from coming from not having seen all these things, if it were a movie, if it were a TV show, whichever it may be, couldn't they save, if just say it's a movie, if couldn't they just save the Destiny or the whole crew of Destiny, whatever it may be, within the first act and make that a really action-packed first act and have like Stargate Command or whoever's leading the mission from afar kind of cut back between the two so it gives you what's happening in real world time on Earth, but they save it within the first act, and that may set up maybe the climax for the film itself, because now these people or these aliens followed them back, or this mysterious signal now latched on to the Destiny and now it's following us back to Earth, whatever it may be. Would that be kind of doable? Kind of bridge the gap of, okay, we got SGU people, we've got SG1 SGA people, we've got the whole Stargate base, but we're also still moving forward. Yeah.
Only problem I can see with that is doing it in the first act is it might feel a little rushed, because it's one of those events that's happened that I think it's going to take something massive to bring them back. I don't think it's something that you can just trivially say, "Oh, we brought them back." How did you bring them back? Like, we need to see that.
Would that be an interesting way to start a film, though? Say, all right, we're starting as everyone's already done the research. We kind of get that exposition at the beginning of the film, maybe a voiceover like, "Oh, this is what we're doing. This is our plan." Some kind of way you could do it as like a command in Stargate, and then jump.
Part one.
I think it could literally
just do a
be
long thing of everything that's happened in the last 12 years, Star Wars style.
I think it could literally be first act. We've got Stargate Command, now Homeworld Command, in Atlantis, whatever it may be, but it's set on Earth, and they're literally formulating a plan, and then they tell the audience what the plan is, and the plan is to save the crew of the Destiny, who 10 years ago were trapped in a distant galaxy far, far away. Someone who hasn't watched Stargate, that's still pretty exciting.
Where?
That's still pretty exciting. Second act, they can enact the plan that they've got. Shenanigans happen, like people die, like aliens attack. There's stuff that happens, and in the final act, there's reuniting of families. We can see Eli with his mum. It would be. That's what I want.
God, I just nearly fell asleep. You explaining it. So boring.
Shut up.
I don't even laugh too much. The problem is
karma.
Before we go on and talk about like the other possibilities, then, what do you think about the thought that they can? It's such a big universe. Why don't they just do a movie that's none of these things? You know, I did a video last week and I said why we could just do a Ronan Dex movie. Right, you bring back Jason Momoa, who, if you give him enough money, he'll probably do it. And he seems to be one of those actors that would, I think he's quite busy the next few years, so it wouldn't happen anytime soon. But and you do a film that's just about him within the Stargate universe, but really hasn't got a lot to do with anything else that follows it. It's just like a 2-hour advert for the film, for the series. It's such a big universe. Couldn't you could do a Stargate movie that anybody could sit and watch, because it's just like, should they maybe do something that's separate from what's come before is what I'm trying to say, and that anyone can watch. You don't have to have watched Stargate to understand it, but have enough like things in there that gators would go ee. So
You mean like an Aris Bach Jr. movie?
Yes, exactly like an Aris Bach fucking thing. Jack Gordon, he's alive. Yes, exactly like that. But seriously,
here's an idea on that vein. The people of Nova, is it Nova? Yeah, Nova, whatever. Basically our descendants when we got sent back in time and they populated the planet. It could literally be them, because it's an Earth-like planet, but it's not Earth.
Okay. Oh, I see.
So you're saying it could be anyone in the universe. Doesn't have to be us here and now. So it could be them, which technically is us, but not here and now.
They could do it, yeah. And so it's an alien, maybe it's an alien race that find their Stargate. That would be an interesting way of starting the first 5 minutes of the film. You have an alien race that find their Stargate. They figure out to dial it, and they come through, and it's us. And they arrive in Stargate Command. That might be an interesting way. It might be an interesting way of like explaining it all as well.
What if we were the antagonists until we learned to work together or something like that? Like the humans and the Jaffa and everybody were the antagonists at the beginning. That'd be interesting. I don't know.
So we're the bad guys.
Until we're not, of course, but
I mean, it just depends who's in power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much. I do like the idea of however they do this as well, that we become sort of the bad guys. Because
I think it's easily done. Look at the Lucian Alliance. Lucian Alliance was born out of freeing themselves from slavery and taking what was used to oppress them, and then they become bad guys.
Yeah,
a lust for knowledge becomes a lust for power easily.
Well, we're the baddest people in the galaxy at the moment, aren't we? Our starships are going to be better than anyone's, because we have got the the Asgard database still, and well, even without increasing our knowledge, say even if we haven't really learned anything in 10 years, we've still got the best ships in the fleet in the universe that we know of. We're better than anything the Lucian Alliance have got. There's only really Ori that could touch us.
The only thing that would make it hard for us would be people coming in greater numbers, and that's what I think they've done that with a lot of the enemies in the past, like with the Wraith. Yeah, we can defeat a hive ship dead easy, but they come with like 15 hive ships, and we're like, fuck, we cannot defeat them, and we have to run. That's even if we're like the most powerful beings, essentially technologically in the galaxy. It's just going to be who's got the bigger army. And that's,
we'd have to be building ships like crazy. We'd have to be building a fleet. We can't just have 5 or 6 ships.
Not to get too Star Warsy with it, but we already have all the Asgardian technology, and they're clones. What's keeping anybody from literally making a clone army anywhere? Just resources, or what? Because that'd be a.
I don't think they would touch the cloning technology simply because of what happened to the Asgard.
What if it was a means to an end, like the Cold War, just to take out some things, not necessarily live longevity wise?
Always interesting.
But then there's the debate ethically of is this exactly the route that the Asgard went down initially? They were only going to make small changes here and there, and then they did it more, and they did it more, and they did it more, and then all of a sudden they've got this degradation they can't repair, and now they're going to die. They're all fucked. So.
Yeah. and numbers aren't really our problem, are they? Because we've got billions of people all over the galaxy. We don't really need more. I think we're going to have issues with like refugees and things, and we're going to have lots of issues like that. But we discussed this when we've talked about, does it make sense that it would still be a secret on Earth? And like, why would we give our technology and Nakoda generators to people on planets a million miles away, but we still use coal power stations? Doesn't make sense. How about so you said like you didn't really know how an SG1 series would go. For me, I think that's the easiest one. There'd still be an SG1 team, an SG2 team, an SG3 team. So you still got Stargate Command. You bring back a couple of the actors, like you bring back General Sam, you bring back Daniel Jackson. According to sources, they've already been approached, and have already pretty much agreed that whatever project moves forwards, they're going to be in it. And that is an amazing cup. And I like the blood. Ugh. Oh man, it's even better.
Little xenomorph down there.
Oh yeah. So I mean, for me, as a starting point, it seems to be the easiest because you don't really need to explain much. How the story what story then develops is you could go anywhere with it. But from a if they're being lazy, it seems to be the easiest way to do it. And the easiest
I can see it being one of the easiest options for sure. But the problem I see, because SG1 ran for so long, they did so much. They defeated so many like evils.
Mm-hmm.
They defeated the Gwawul, they defeated the replicators, and then they've defeated ascended beings. Where'd you go from there? With Atlantis and stuff, it was in a different galaxy, so you're going to have different threats and stuff. With universe, different parts of the universe, so you're going to have different threats there. But in our own galaxy, what's going to be a bigger threat than the ascended beings from the Aurora galaxy?
Furlings, evil Ewoks. To be honest, if they don't
maybe, I mean,
if the Furlings isn't the villain at some point in the first 2 or 3 seasons of whatever they bring back, I don't know what to say. I just think if you've got the biggest question from SG1 that's never been answered, been hinted at a few times. We've seen a few aliens. We think they're the Furlings. We're not sure. The planet builders might be the Furlings. We're not sure. If you don't bring them back, I don't know what is going on. And obviously, they're not evil Ewoks. I need to remind people that Jack O'Neill, that was his imagination. When we see the Furlings, they're not going to be evil Ewoks. It just amazes me how many times we get comments saying, "Oh, that would just look stupid." You can't do that. No, we don't know what the Furlings look like. Calm down.
We didn't do it. They did it in the episode 200. It was a parody episode.
Yeah, exactly. So, but like I say, you've got the biggest question from Stargate SG1. Gators would go. I think most Gators would go freaking crazy. If oh my gosh, the Furlings, brilliant.
But you could bring those into any. It doesn't have to be directly from SG1. It could be they could go into Atlantis. They could go into Universe. I mean, even if they did something completely different, Stargate Galaxy. I don't know. Top of my head, just some random show. You could bring in one villain from every single series could still be in this new one, and that's the beauty of it. It could be anything.
If we're talking Furlings, why not talk Nocks? I mean, the Nocks are obviously super friendly and everything, but they're also much more focused on making sure things are good in nature on different planets, and they're kind of living with the planets. If we're going around exploding planets just to open up frickin' Stargates places, why wouldn't they be pissed off at us? Hey, this young race is coming around, and yeah, this species might be smart, they might be intelligent and capable of figuring all these things out, but you're still a young species, young race that doesn't know what they're doing, and that much, I guess, that much in that little a time might be dangerous to them and the Furlings. We could see them kind of take
they did distance themselves from the Tauri because of essentially how we are as a species. And then they've got that line that bloke says, was it? Sometimes the very young do not do as they told.
Yeah. I thought that would be a really easy way, again, of something. If we're going to have a villain, I like the idea of the Tauri being the villain. Not the Goa'uld sort of villain, but we're going out there, we're building cities, we're building things. We're like you said, we blow up the odd star. And the Nocks, who are supposedly in line with and hippies. Let's be honest, they're hippies. You'd get on with them great, Harris. Because they're anyway. So maybe the Nocks turn up and just go, no, you guys need to. We're going to put you in your place. You're too young, and you're effing everything up that you go around. And maybe they come in and they put us down.
I mean, if we fought ascended beings, we fought all these different things, they're going to know we won't be easy to defeat, which means they're going to come in there with the plan, which would be interesting.
Yeah. Without that, we don't know how technologically advanced they are, because we only got snippets. We saw floating cities, we saw things like this. So they could literally just come in and click their fingers and just say,
yeah,
no more.
They've got a floating city, so they must be a spacefaring race. They definitely they have ships.
But bring a floating city to another planet and then make it uninvisible and like show that it's on the planet, just out of nowhere kind of deal. And then from there, if you have a floating city, why not have 6 or 7 different Destiny type vehicles, 6 or 7 Prometheus type vehicles, whatever it may be, come down there and just start attacking people. And then you have, I mean, you literally have an invisible way of bringing in an entire planetary force to take something over. And they could do that in a couple Jaffa worlds. They could do it in a couple Tauri worlds. They could do it where we're building up somewhere, and we wouldn't have anything to do against it. We could start the series.
The problem I can see is that they wouldn't be attacking anyone. If they were to be an antagonist, they would be very clever. And they would probably take people. They would probably stop people from doing certain things. And I don't know to what extent they could do, but they're a very peaceful race. I mean, they wouldn't even let us let SG1 kill Apophis.
No.
Yeah,
even though he potentially killed them, and they brought him back to life. They just wouldn't let him do it.
And they all look like Ursula Gummidge. If you're not,
yeah, they do.
An American wouldn't know what the hell I'm talking about. But they look, Google Ursula Gummidge, they look like Ursula Gummidge. I like the idea of this from it's like a philosophical idea, and but I actually think as a movie, I don't think there's a lot of to make it very exciting, because it would be kind of there'd be a good moral to the story. That we have become too powerful too quickly, and we've become greedy or whatever. I think over a series, I'd like to see bits of that, because we'd stumble, wouldn't we? We're new as a galactic power. I think we'd stumble, and we're quite a greedy crap race if you really break it down. We're not very good. I love that bit when it says O'Neill's talking to Hammond, and Hammond's there saying, we're not going to interfere in this planet's political whatever. And he goes, and since when? When do we not do that? And it's true, I saw that little thing that it was always, SG1 was always sort of like the ideal Star Trek-y in a way. They were trying to get weapons, and they didn't like the NID because they were stealing things, so they tried to be idealistic. But but every so often you just see little images of like, no, we're not really. We're quite greedy, and we're political, and I love the political episodes when
we're a very fractured society as well.
Yeah, sorry?
We've as a society, as a race, as a species, we're very fractured because we've got self borders that we created. So we've got like America, we've got England, we've got Africa and stuff, and then we impose like laws and sanctions on people on the other side of a border just because they live on that side of the border. And there's a lot of infighting between like on one side of the fence to the other side of the fence just because the grass is greener on this side, or the grass isn't that green on that side, and it's crazy. But if they were to do it with a movie, I think having that be part of it, there's a lot of infighting, and because we're not a unified race, we don't have like one central like government kind of thing. There's a lot of like power vacuums. And whoever owns the Stargate has the power. So there's a lot of friction to be had from that.
Oh, Peacock. We just had a little quick question. Did the ancients forget about this? Missed. Sorry. Did the ancients forget about Destiny? No, they kind of because they launched it a million years before to answer this question, and then they ascended, basically. So I think once the ancients ascended, they became energy beings. They'd have just found the answers to what Destiny became redundant, basically. So they just left it. So they didn't really forget about it. It just didn't become important anymore once they ascended instead. But also by the point of that launching, I think some of the ancients had already started ascending, hadn't they? I think I have read the timeline a few times. But these were the Atlanteans, and when we talk about ascended beings, there's 2 or 3 different types, isn't there? So
it was slightly before Atlantis went to Pegasus.
Yeah, their first lot started to ascend. There was more than one ascension buffer. So you've got the Atlanteans were a bunch of ascended. You've got the ancients, I think, is a general term, but then occasionally they talked about them or the others, which was a bunch of ascended beings as well. That they were the ones that were very strict on not interfering. So within the ancient culture, I'll do a video on the ancients at some point because I did all the research.
As far as I know, there was the settlement on Earth. some of them would have ascended. They obviously had Atlantis already, so they went to Pegasus, and then they had the War with the Wraith, and then after that, the rest of them ascended. That's how I understand it.
And then after the Ori, and then there was a bunch of ascensions after when the Ori used the plague as well, and there was the last lot of ascensions were about 10,000 years ago. One of the final ones, I think, and then 50,000 years ago is when. But anyway, it goes on and on. I'll do a video at some point because it is quite complicated. So we think an SGU movie could work, but we're not sure whether it would have a broad enough appeal. Is that fair?
Yeah,
I don't know, because the idea I've got, the idea would make it work for anyone who hasn't seen Stargate before. You start with Earth. You start with them saying they're going to go and rescue these people that have been on this ship for the last 10 years. You don't have to have watched Stargate to understand that. All you know is, cool, they've been on that ship for a long time. Let's go rescue them. And then you go along for the ride. I think that would appeal to a large range of people and the Stargate
then the finale
fans.
is them getting home. You have problems, you do whatever. The finale, they come home. Does that lead into a new series? Does that need into a franchise, or is it just a nice way to say goodbye to the old franchise, move forwards?
Something can happen at the end of it that would lead into the series. Maybe, as Harry said, something came back with them.
Or the Destiny's woken something up that is a new threat or whatever, and then it's going, okay, well, there's Earth. I was thinking it's a bit like when the Enterprise first discovered the Borg, and then they knew, and Q was like, they know where you are now. So the threat wasn't immediate, but the Borg knew where the Federation was, so it's sort of, they came. They could do something like that. The Destiny's woken something up. They survive. They come back, and then they're like, yeah, but they know we're here now, and they didn't know before. It's kind of like, I suppose, what they did with the Ori as well. That's a similar sort of storyline. The Ori were like, oh, we thought you were all dead. So maybe they could do something like that.
As far as the Ori knew, we were dead from that plague. They didn't know about the Dakara weapon.
No, we'd been protecting us all that time. The ancients have been shielding us. So, so that's an interesting one. So SG1 is the easiest way of doing it. SG Atlantis, I don't think we need an SG Atlantis movie unless we can get Jason Momoa to come back. But I do think we're going to see the Atlantis, because I would have thought that would make total sense. That if we've got an SG command on Earth, I think you mentioned earlier, Matt, that it would be Atlantis. If Atlantis is still on Earth. So SG command would be Atlantis. So I think we'll see SG. I think we could see SGA. I just don't think. I don't think there'll be a movie.
Realistically, all it is a ship. It's another ship to put into our arsenal.
Yeah, a big one.
It can literally. It's a massive one, but it could literally be in any show, any movie. Yeah. It can show up.
That's true. What does like the Pegasus Galaxy like? How does it fit into all of this? I guess because obviously I don't know exactly where things end. So but how does that fit into any of this? That's my.
There is a lot of unanswered questions in Pegasus. The overall threat of the Wraith isn't defeated. It's just the immediate threat to Earth gets defeated. But the overall threat in Pegasus isn't. So there is still the unanswered question of how are they going to eradicate that threat? How are they going to finish what the Ancients started like 50,000 years ago?
So there's still a big all basically Atlantis ends with there's a threat against Earth because they get a bunch of ZPMs and they send this like super hive ship, and that's all that really ends with Atlantis is that the super hive ship's defeated, so Earth is saved. But there's still an entire galaxy full of people being hunted by the Wraith.
Interesting. So if could that be a kind of a way to like bridge the gap? Like maybe if you get some villains or I don't know, if we are the villains in whatever series or movie it may be, could we find a way to kind of push people towards or whatever enemies we may have towards the Pegasus Galaxy and kind of let the Wraith start to help us in a way, even without them knowing, to kind of feed them without like really
dinner time.
Yeah, essentially.
You never know.
They're insects, you know.
I think if they brought in anything from Atlantis, they'd have Wraith as allies. We've already had our Wraith as allies. Like you got Todd, even though I think he overall like. I swear he backstabbed us, but I can't really remember. I swear he does. Right at the end, doesn't he?
Can't remember.
Or is that not Todd? It's
I'm
one
only
of them.
Todd, I think, is in season
Michael.
2.
Michael, not Todd. Michael.
I think he ended up. I can't remember the last time we saw him. I haven't watched
he backstabbed, then gets backstabbed, and then backstabs the Wraith and helps us.
Yeah. Oh, that's the same with Todd, really, isn't it? That Todd keeps. He backs up. It's a bit like Ball. You know, they follow the same formulas and a lot in between SGA and SG1. So, right. So we've said basically SGU will be boring. We've agreed that. SG1 is the easiest, simplest way.
We haven't. We have not agreed that.
Just a second. SGU will be boring.
Democracy.
I can't get him back in. Sorry. So SGU would be boring. SG1 would be easy, but maybe is it too easy? I think somebody just said there that actually SG1 is it run its course. I would say that it's formulaically the easiest way to do a new franchise because you can, you know, it's like having a Star Trek series aboard the Enterprise. It just makes sense, and it's what people want to see. But SG Atlantis, we think, will appear and be central to whatever comes, but maybe won't be like the reason for the. Even though I've always said we would have engineers all over SGA, all over the Atlantis. They could very easily find something that causes a massive problem that the initial storylines around. They just go into a room and go, "Oh crap," and just let something out. And I think for me, I want to see a hybrid. I want to see them cherry pick the best bits out of all three. That we will get to see actors from all three, maybe, and we get to see something exciting. And maybe with it, I think the idea I had was that we'd have an SG1 franchise with maybe new, younger actors, because obviously if they're the front line, they're going to be maybe 20s, 30s, with all of these cherry picked, the great actors that we love in and around it. And that would be a great way of setting up the franchise. And then each series would like switch where it's focusing. So I think you could focus on the Tauri a bit. You could focus on maybe an ancient storyline. You could focus on lots of different things. You could go to the Jaffa Nation, or you could focus on that a little bit. That's the way I'd like to see it. But before we end, and I go and lie down and put my head in a pillow and just go for a bit, hard reboot. It's always a risk. We don't, in our hearts, we don't want to see it. But would it be a better way of restarting the franchise if you think about how powerful Tauri were, Atlantis, everything else? Would a clean
on paper,
slate...
yes. On paper, in theory, it's very easy to do a hard reboot and just eradicate all of the progress we've made. But I think it's just as easy to bring in something in the story to get rid of that power.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm still finishing it. Why would I finish it if we do a hard reboot? It would feel like I still could, but like, why would I watch the reboot then? Just for the sake of it? That wouldn't. I don't think there's a legitimate reason for it except dollars. And I'm all for dollars. I'm a Texas boy. ExxonMobil's headquartered in the city I'm from. Like, I like money all day, every day. But you got to have reason for your art. And if that only reason is oh yeah, this would be easier, go off with that. Like give me something real and heartfelt. That's one of the reasons why it is sad that Amazon doesn't want to use Brad or Malozzi or any of these people. Is like, not only are they had the creative minds behind this, but they're the hearts and souls behind it. And that can be replaced if you have the right people and the right shepherds and things like that. But a hard reboot makes absolutely no sense. And it would feel like, I mean, for someone who's been watching this for the past year and a half to 2 years, really just trying to get further and further into it and enjoying every little second of it. Y'all that have watched it and adored it for the last 15, 20 years, I don't know how that'd make y'all feel. I'd just feel completely betrayed. A soft reboot's fine for me, but a hard reboot, I'm gone. There's no reason for me to watch it.
It's going to have to be there's too much time for it not to be some version of a soft reboot. It's going to be Star Trek, Stargate, The Next Generation in some way. That we might get a few actors come back, like we've said, but it's not possible for a continuation.
I'd hope that they would look at other shows that got rebooted and failed, like the one I can think of straight away, because it's a similar story to Stargate, where it basically ended as it was getting good. It was the 4400, so that ended in 2008, something like that. I think it was like 2008.
Yeah.
Well, I really liked it. So it ended right partway through the 4th season, 5th.
Yeah. I think I did watch the first season. To be fair, I did quite like it. But then I think it was one of those shows.
It was getting really good.
Yeah, it was on Sky, and I didn't have Sky for a bit, so I stopped watching it, and then I never got back into it, sort of thing.
Well, it was getting really good. They cancelled it, and then literally like 2 years ago, they brought it back. They rebooted it, and no one watched it because it was not good, and it didn't get past the first season. So maybe, hopefully, they look at like stuff like that, like, oh, this is an example of a show that didn't get its ending, and they tried to reboot it, hard reboot it. It failed. Maybe we should just continue it, just a continuation. Bring back the people who were in it before, if they've got like any sense. Like, that's what they'll do. But the thing is, as you said before, they're just headless chickens. So who knows?
Yeah. The thing is, though, I think there's no need for a hard reboot now because of streaming services. 10 years ago, they'd have done it because they only had repeats. and people didn't watch the repeats as much as they do nowadays.
They would have pulled in. They would have done an amazing Spider-Man, just like they did Spider-Man, and hard rebooted one of the most popular characters. Where this is like one of the most popular franchises that, as we say, Sleeping Giant, people adore it. You can't do something like that with something people love and have spent. Toby had 3 movies. How are you supposed to like Andrew Garfield? And if it declines in quality at all, why would you stay? That's the same way for like a hard reboot now.
It's not a popular idea anymore. But because of streaming services, though, there's that old thing of, well, people won't know what we're on about if we have all these Easter eggs and things. That's been proven by season 3 of Picard, that they're talking about stuff that we did. They did a TV series 30 years ago, and there's lots of these little Easter eggs going back to 3 decades ago. And people remember because they've continued to watch it, and they've watched it on streaming, and so the whole argument of that it's just that people won't remember isn't true anymore. So a hard reboot of a franchise as big as Stargate is a ridiculous idea. But everything I've heard is not going to happen. Everything I've heard is that, and even Roland Emmerich talked about this, and he said, look, he wanted to do his movie, and MGM and Amazon, even at that point, were not keen. And he said it's because the TV audience is all that mattered. They just cared about the TV audience. It was because we had 16, 17 seasons of this show that we love, and we don't want to pretend. But I think they can ignore bits. They don't have to maybe. What I heard was when Penguin and Parker first got involved and they were doing the development work. It was with Amazon said you can ignore some bits if it makes the show make sense, but there's certain things you can't. And we want this Bible that Penguin and Parker Mark Fergus put together for them. We want this Bible of what it looks like, and that God, that was nearly a year ago now. I think it was about 10 months ago. So there's this Bible that exists that Amazon commissioned Mark Fergus to do before all the pitch meetings things started, to say this is what you can and this is what you can't do. And I like that idea because at least it comes from a point of saying, okay, look. There is a problem in that the Tower are incredibly powerful. There is a problem that, like, okay, this has been defeated, and this has been defeated, and this has happened. So
incredibly powerful.
Well, yeah. So where are we allowed to fudge canon a little bit to make a show now that makes sense?
Confused. Is it just?
I've said it before. Like the Tower, we're idiots. We'll just lose it. Like it'll just get blown up or something. It got blown up. It literally got blown up within the first 5 minutes of having it. So. It will happen again.
Yeah. Harris, you okay, sir? No, Harris, go bye-bye.
Harris is rebooting.
Is he? He's having a hard reboot. Does he need to come out and come back in? So that's that. I think that's he's off. We've lost him, but he'll come back in a second. So I think the nice thing about Stargate is, though, it's a bit like Star Trek, is that they do have this massive universe to go through. I just worry, though, that they will be obsessed about bringing things back. Right, the Star Trek risk. Star Trek always brings back, it always has to be based on the Enterprise. It always has to, they have to reboot it, and we have to have a new Captain Kirk, and we have to have a new Pike. They always have to recycle all these old characters because they think we'll freak out and not watch it if it's based on a new ship and a new thing. But then, to be fair, they did Discovery, which was a new ship and a new thing, and no one watched it. But anyway, we'll ignore that. I just don't need them to do that. I think there's enough characters and enough thing there to say. And one of the things I don't want them to do is I don't want Colonel O'Neill or General O'Neill to be played by a different actor. If RDA comes back, great. If he doesn't, fine. Let's give me new characters, new actors. Do not fall into that mistake that Star Trek have done. We're on our 3rd or 4th Kirk. We don't need that.
I'd hope that wouldn't be a risk. Just from what we've seen in Stargate before, Don S. Davis died, and they didn't replace him.
Yeah,
they didn't hire an actor to be General Hammond. They just hired Beau Bridges as Landry. If they do other things like that, so Jack O'Neill, Sam, whatever, they're gonna retire at some point. Jack probably already is retired, to be fair, but Sam and Daniel and all that, they're gonna get old. They're gonna start families and all that kind of stuff. Bring in new characters to replace them, but not new actors to play them.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And like I say, we it's a big enough galaxy that we can support new actors and new characters, and that's the nice thing with Stargate. It's a massive universe. I think
Stargate was always good at that anyway. I mean, with SG1, we all loved SG1, the team. Yeah. Like, we couldn't imagine a show without SG1. And then Atlantis came along, and we had John Shepard and Taylor and Ronan and Rodney. And we'd already met Rodney in SG1, but we fell in love with them as well. And I know you didn't, but personally, I fell in love with the characters in Stargate Universe as well. So it's happened before. Like, they bring in new characters and new stories, and it works. Within
that was
Stargate,
my problem with Stargate Universe. I didn't fall in love with the characters. I think the writing was probably the most beautifully made of all the 3 series. Production value was through the roof. It was so good. It was beautiful.
I didn't like the characters. So with Stargate SG1 and Stargate Atlantis, I like the characters. I feel like they're good people, and I genuinely like them. But I don't like the people in Stargate Universe. I find them interesting to watch because they're just horrible people. A lot of them are just horrible people, but they're put in this impossible situation, and it's how they react. That's what I enjoy watching.
Yeah.
So same reason I like that Breaking Bad. It's like a good guy turning bad. Same way I like Dexter. He's a guy who just kills bad guys. Like, they're horrible people. They're horrible characters, but they're just so fun to watch.
Yeah. You mentioned Dexter. Actually, it's another good example of why a continuation can work. Dexter was off our screens for 10 or 15 years or something, and they did that series last year, and it was a massive success. It was the biggest show on Showtime last year. They're now talking about doing 2 spin-off shows. So, I mean, I
was a little annoyed about that show, though. Everything up until the last episode, because they killed Dexter. They actually killed Dexter.
Yeah,
like,
which is put a bit of a dampener on season 2. But
I mean, he faked his death in the 8th season. He was supposed to be dead, and then he came back for New Blood. So
but lots of things have. Yeah, it just proves though that it can work. A continuation can work anyway. So I don't know if Harris is coming back, but I wanted to have a go at him about Star Wars before he disappeared. But I don't think he's going to come back. But anyway, so we've got lots of ideas for how the movie can work. We've had this update now that there might be a mutiny going on at MGM over the movie. That literally, I think Jennifer Salkin must be sat in an office just going la 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 la. Everyone else banging on the door going.
She's boarding up her door.
Yeah. A movie won't work, you stupid cow. I just got a message of Harris. My Wi-Fi just went kaput. So he go bye-bye. So I don't think he's coming back. But it's really easy for them to do a movie. There's lots of ways they could do it. I just want them to do a movie that is basically a 2-hour advert for the amazing television that's going to follow it. My only real disappointment about a movie first is that it'll take longer. That's my only disappointment. Yeah. If they just decided, let's go TV series, and they could put, it could be on our screens in 6 months. You know, by the end of the year, it could be on our screens. It wouldn't be nowadays because when they do streaming service movies, they always take longer nowadays. But spring next year is doable. 12 months, doable. I think it'd be quicker than that actually because they've done loads of development work. But if they announce this, it could be on our screens really quickly. But and it's because it's character driven. It's not as sci-fi driven as things like Warhammer, all these other series that have come in. God of War. What's the other one? There's another one. They've just finished filming, and it's still not going to be on our screens for like 9 months or something. Sorry, I sent myself an email about it because I need to remember to talk about it. Where is it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But you know, these things, they're big special effects movie. Stargate doesn't have to be as. It's more character driven, so it could be on our screens a lot quicker if we wanted it to be. But let's see what happens. So I will get you a few more details, guys, about these shenanigans and discussions going on at MGM as soon as I know. I'm hoping to know a little bit more tomorrow. We've got a few ideas for things coming up as well. And yeah, we'll crack on with that immediately. Thanks very much, Matty, for joining us again, even though you've been wrong the entire video. I mean, literally. Everything that's come out of your mouth has been wrong, which is astonishing, mate. That's
absolutely not. Everything I've said has been top tier, top tier knowledge and top tier opinions. Everyone in the comments will agree with me.
Been very good. It's just your opinion that's wrong. But I mean, mate, you're entitled.
Quick, get into the comments. Am I wrong or is Jay wrong? Cast your votes now.
On SGU, mate, that's going to be Marmite. That's going to be honestly. Stargate Universe is funny.
Do a poll. Do a poll after this video.
I guarantee you will get slightly more SGU votes. So what? Okay, I'm going to put the poll on live now while we're on here.
Just say, do you like SGU?
Do you like SGU?
Or opinions on SGU? Love it, hate it. Like, just that's just that.
Oh, Sarah says I'm wrong. But he says I'm right. No, he says I'm wrong. So okay, we're going to create a poll right now, and because we're not a democracy. I'm in charge, but we're democracy. We're not. I'm not in charge. What am I doing?
We're democracy-ish.
We're democracy-ish. Yeah.
Yes.
Unless you're told to shut up, in which case you know what to do. So
I told you to shut up today. You haven't said it to me yet.
Yeah. I felt sorry for you, mate, that you were just talking such rubbish onto my head. Oh, if you're going to get away with it, you'll get away with it today because my head is pounded. Right, so Stargate Universe. Stargate Universe. Love it or hate it. Is that as simple?
Yeah.
So that's not fair, though, because I don't hate it. I just think it's the weakest of the three.
Like it. Okay, like it, don't like it.
Best. Well, is it? I'll tell you what, should we do? What is your favorite Stargate? Stargate SG1, Stargate SG Atlantis, Stargate SGU. I bet you
SG1 will win. SG1 will win.
Yeah, because it's the best. But I think Atlantis will come third.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. All right. What's the best Stargate? What is the best Stargate series? Oh, best or favorite? Oh, guys, tell me in the thing. What is the best or favorite?
I'll put Stargate Origins in there. I want to see how many people vote for that.
Okay. You know what? I've never watched Origins. Hopefully, we're going to get. I could say this actually because I don't think she'll mind. I'm hopefully going to get Jenny Stiven to come on as a guest in the next couple of weeks. And what I want to do is get her on a guest and talk about Origins, which she had a lot of. She was there working on it. She was one of the team that worked on it. I have never seen it. I don't.
It's good. So it came out in like 2018, didn't it? Something crazy like that. We hadn't had Stargate for so long. When it come out, I was dead excited. I watched it. I watched the whole lot in like one sitting because it's like 10 minute episodes. Like that.
I think it was ahead of its time, wasn't it? Because it was
good, but it wasn't. I don't think you could consider it canon.
No. Well, it was supposed to be like a prequel. SG Origins. I'm throwing Origins in. You got it. Oh, what was the name of the cartoon?
Infinity.
Thank you. I got to throw that in as well, haven't I? Infinity.
No one's gonna say. I've never seen Infinity. Like I've seen clips of it. I'm not gonna watch that.
I did watch it, and it was right. That is live, guys. That poll is live. Please make your votes. What was the best? I'm going with best, not favorite. All right. So, what was the best of the show? And that is slightly different because I mean, my favorite. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example now. My favorite Star Trek movie is not the best Star Trek movie. My favorite Star Trek movie is Undiscovered Country. It's not the best of the movies, but it's my favorite for different reasons. So actually, I want to know what's the best of the Stargate series. And then when I think SG1.
Well, in that case, it's always going to be SG1.
Yeah, because
always,
it's the best.
every day.
It's the daddy. Come on. And then I'll follow up with the Stargate Universe. I'll think how to word it when I haven't got a mind-splitting headache. So
the Stargate Universe is still like top tier
compared to other sci-fi, not compared to Stargate SG1 or SG Atlantis.
Compared to SG1, yes.
It's compared to it's out of Stargate, it's third draw. Compared to all other sci-fi, it's still top draw. It's still better than most of the crap out there.
I agree with you on half that point, half of that.
Yeah. I think Harris might be coming back, so I do want to have a go with him about. Did you watch the Mandalorian episode this week?
The half an hour episode.
Yeah, with the flying Tyrannosaurus Rex,
the Foundling,
and the Foundling. Yeah,
it's called the Foundling.
What's your thoughts on that episode? Just generally, did you enjoy it?
It was all right. Didn't really add much to the story.
It didn't add anything to the story. It made no bloody sense. Right, so you've got.
But the episode before that didn't add anything to the story either.
I'm detecting a pattern. To be honest with this series of Mandalorian.
The episode before that was literally about this one guy who ends up getting betrayed for some unknown reason, and then all of a sudden we're back to Mandalorian.
Here he is. Here he is. Right, so let's.
Well, let me tell you why this was the perfect culmination of 15 years worth of storytelling right here. Because there are Vizslas, there's Darksabers, there's Mandalorians, there's so many things wrapped up in this beautiful, perfect half hour. And
the Darksaber wasn't in the last episode of Mandalorian. It was mentioned.
It was in the second episode.
But okay, so the prevalence with that comes from the fact that we learned that Paz Vizsla, the big Jon Favreau Mandalorian, the big dude that gets chomped by the bird and then kind of tossed out later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
his son is the guy that's been taken. Usually that doesn't really matter because Mandalorians, their foundlings are almost just as important as their children. But he's a Vizsla. And the Vizslas are the clan that united Mandalore long ago. Tar Vizsla was the first person to wield that Darksaber and ride the Mythosaur and unite all of the bickering clans of Mandalorians.
Right. Katie Sackhoff's going to ride the Mythosaur or whatever it's called.
Which is going to be great. So that's different too, just because I'll give you the briefest of synopsises. Because
No. Shut up, Paris. No. Right. The last episode of Mandalorian. Big Bird comes in, grabs child with massive claws. Does not kill that child. No sense. That makes no fucking sense.
But he does eat it. He does eat it.
He does then
and then regurgitates it. He regurgitates it, and the child's still alive.
Kid in that bird's stomach.
How long did Boba Fett sit in the Sarlacc stomach with this Mandalorian Beskar?
Yeah. Which also don't use that as an excuse of why it made sense because that didn't make bloody sense either.
That's the Beskar.
I know he's wearing armor. So all right. So we get him. So he swallows him, flies off. The big bird flew off. Right. They tried to follow him, couldn't catch him, and then Katie Sackhoff chased him. Said, "I found the nest." Has time to come back, land, have a chat with them. They decide what to do. They then fly back to the nest, climb a big bloody mountain, just in time for the big bird to arrive. What was the big bird doing?
They climb the mountain and camp overnight, and then do.
The big bird was just like flying around in circles, going, "Well, I've got to wait for all his mates to turn up," and made no bloody sense. I know this is science fantasy, and I always wonder that they don't call Star Wars science fantasy because they know it doesn't make any bloody sense. So they go, well, we can't call it sci-fi because we'll have to make it make sense. So we'll have to call it fantasy because in fantasy we do whatever we want. And then Big Bird can fly around for 2 days waiting for the Mandalorians to turn up. It makes no bloody sense. And the episode boring as crap. It's just like
you gotta watch the episode before it. Harris,
boring as
the
crap.
episode before it. Can you explain what relevance that has to anything?
It has relevance to everything.
What? Some random dude who looks like he's a fucking...
He's not a random dude. He's
the guy that we followed in season 1 and season 2. The guy that brought...
He was the scientist, wasn't he?
He's very important. We started the series with him.
I don't think it added anything to the story.
But I appreciate they're building to something. But the last episode was... And now I've got a controversial thing to say, Harris. And I want you to listen to me.
No.
Star Wars is crap. All of it. It's boring. Other than that they made really cool toys out of it. Right? Other than
how do you make really cool toys besides really cool characters?
Great music. Brilliant music. Love the music. I love a lightsaber. Give me a lightsaber. I'm a happy boy. But the stories are dull. They never really, and they're simple. It's good versus evil. There's no nuance to it.
But there is nuance. There's nuance in it, and that's the best part about it. They can be these simple stories with it. So let me counter because
one more point. One more point. Do you know how they call it a space opera? Have you ever watched an opera?
Yeah.
Boring as crap. So that's why it's called a space opera, because they know it's boring.
So before I even attempt to counter, give me 3 reasons how Star Trek is more entertaining than Star Wars. Because that is utopian Star Trek, boring.
100%. You did just say Star Trek is better than Star Wars. You know that, right?
No, I said, tell me how. I didn't say it was. I said, tell me 3 reasons how.
I have to give you 3 reasons why Star Trek is better than Star Wars.
More entertaining.
More entertaining. Better stories. More interesting stories because they're actually like use some sort of
talk about simple stories. Their entire their goal is to go over here, and now we're going to show how humanity's good over here. There's no nuance in these stories.
They go over there, they find some villain, and then they or some mystery or something, and they solve the mystery. It's just like there's loads of mysteries. They have much better characters.
I've got Scooby-Doo for that.
Have you looked at some of the writing of Star Wars?
Yes. It has spawned everything that's come since. Star Wars has spawned everything that has come since because of it.
I know. The only thing I'm grateful for Star Wars for is that because it was successful, A New Hope, we got a Star Trek movie. So that was good.
Like Chilling in the Basement said down here, original Star Wars will never be equaled. It won't. It just won't.
Oh no, because actually, this is really controversial. Because Mandalorian annoyed me. I was thinking, I enjoyed the original trilogy, though, didn't I? So I went back and watched them. The New Hope is written so badly. You know how like George Lucas was convinced it was going to flop, so he didn't go to the premiere. He buggered off to Barbados or something with Steven Spielberg, and they thought up Indiana Jones while they were on holiday instead of going to the premiere. And I think it's because it's written really badly. Them talking to each other, I can't think of the proper word, is awful in places.
Dialogue.
The dialogue is really bad in places. It's really like cheesy and awkward.
The dialogue has never been perfect.
No. But it's really bad in the first one. I think it got better in the second too. But honestly, I don't hate Star Wars. I don't by any stretch of imagination. I love the first 3 movies are good films. I think a lot of the television, and I love the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian. I love bits of Boba Fett. But my God, it's boring. I don't get excited about the new Star Wars. Do you actually get excited on Wednesday when the new Mandalorian episode's coming out?
1,000%. But part of that is because I grew up watching the Clone Wars. Y'all literally don't have 12 to 15 years of storytelling that, and not only is it good storytelling that is George Lucas helmed and Dave Filoni helmed, which is George Lucas's like protege. It's a type of storytelling. Dave Filoni and George Lucas tell a story in ways like it's interesting to go back and watch it now, because as a kid I loved every little bit of it, but now the first 2 seasons of Clone Wars I'm like, all right, this is slow. This isn't exactly what I want it to be. But you literally just patience is paid off in Star Wars, which is great, because there's your nuances right there. Is it takes a little bit of time to get somewhere. And once you get somewhere, you feel that much more fulfilled because of what may feel, I guess, fillerish isn't fillerish by definition ever in Star Wars. It progresses a story and it continues to tell something, which I like. And here's my counter for a little Star Trek right there is I don't dislike Star Trek either. I find it just so boring because I could literally watch it's a procedural drama that's just in space. And it could be literally any procedural drama, just copy and paste it into it. And it doesn't feel special to me. There is no heart. There's no soul. It's utopian BS. In a lot of ways.
In Star Trek. Are you kidding?
No, there's not.
Mankind. It's what we can be the best. And then we have the warts and all in the more modern thing. It's talking about the most difficult problems in humanity. It raises things like racism, sexism, all these things that Star Trek tackles.
It did tackle those, but it tackled them in like an ultra simplistic way. If we want a cool sci-fi series that is a procedural drama kind of setup, I'm watching Stargate.
I don't know. Stargate's much better than both, but that's a different argument. A Star Wars, Star Trek. I'm going. I'll watch Stargate. Thank you. But Star Wars is so slow; it makes Lord of the Rings look fast-paced and excited. It's so slow.
Like you said earlier,
I'm not ending alive until you admit that the last episode of Mandalorian was crap.
Was perfectly conceived. Besides the overnight bird thing, that time wise, but time in Star Wars has never made sense. That's where it is. Not really truly a science fantasy. It's a space fantasy. But that's where you compare it. It's more comparable to Lord of the Rings than it is Star Trek in many ways, because it is this sprawling tale that expands to more than just, oh, what's Earth doing and what's Earth thinking and how are we going to do this? That's just one small, minute detail of Star Wars. Talk about nuance. There's a galaxy to explore, and we have explored so much of it. But we always find a way back to Tatooine, which is aggravating.
So you know, it's always on Tatooine. So the one last point on Mandalorian. I swear to God, if they say this is the way one more time, my TV, you'll see my TV fly over you where you live, because I will just throw the phone. This is the way is not the answer to every question. What do you want for tea? This is the way. No, what do you want for tea? I go, I'll have chicken. And it's just, it's not the answer to every question.
This is the way.
It's not the bloody way. It's not.
This is the way. I have spoken.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
What's the best way to get to?
Is the way.
What's the best way to get to Tatooine? This is the way. No, I'm asking you the question. It's just, for the love of God, just answer the question. It's not the answer. In this country, I always take the piss because in Telford, I don't know if it's like this the rest of England, but in Telford we seem to be really bad. That everyone, if you say, all right, mate, the answer is, all right, mate, you don't answer the question. You don't actually answer if you're all right or not. If you say, all right, the answer is, all right. For Mandalorians, this is the way. The answer is, this is the way. It's just, you just change your fucking shit. I'm sorry.
Well, what was it? Was it Matt that said it? I in our little group messages. I don't remember. What's the difference between this is the way and Jaffa Kree?
No, it's exactly the same. Yeah, and Jaffa Kree means nothing as well. To be fair,
Kree does have meaning. Kree. Means
I've always tried to figure out exactly what it meant. I'm like, it fits.
Kree means attention, or like yoo-hoo, as Jack says.
Okay.
It's like
yoo-hoo.
Look at me. Pay attention to me.
Things. Yeah. I think somebody said that the this is the way is the best part of the Mandalorian series because it creates some identity. I would. Oh God, I nearly highlighted everything then. I would agree with that, except that they use it constantly, but it's never bothered me.
Do you know why they use it constantly, Jay?
It's a cult.
Because they're bored and they can't be
No,
bothered.
because this is the way.
It is the way. Exactly.
That's perfect.
Honestly, in the last episode, though, because it was boring me to death, and the logic of it was starting to get me a bit irritated, and I like The Mandalorian. I've really enjoyed it. This is the way was starting to get on my tits. And by the end of the series, I was there. Honestly, I was scratching at the settee, going, "Say it one more time, I fucking dare you." And then they did, and I'm like, "Ah, kill."
Do you know the way?
Do you know the way?
That's Bob Ramirez that put Uganda Knuckles above it. And if y'all haven't seen Uganda Knuckles, it's the dumbest video ever. It's not gonna y'all don't like it at all. But it's you know Knuckles from Sonic.
Yeah.
It's a fat
I know
Knuckles.
the meme. I know the meme.
You know the way.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Do you know the way?
I don't know where to dispo.
I know the way to the dispo too. That's where I actually took a break real quick. I was like, Star Trek talk. I gotta get out.
I feel this argument may continue. Beyond that, I mean, the old Star Wars, Star Trek argument has continued for many years, because Star Trek is bad. So, but we won't put Stargate into the discussion because Stargate is better. So, that is the way. What is the way? Stargate. So, for the love of God, Amazon, bring it back. Right, so guys, I am going to go and put my head in a bucket of ice water and see if that'll shift this headache, even though it seems to be shifting a little bit, actually. Not so bad as when I started.
Take a video and do ALS bucket ice challenge, just 2.0.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the guy that did that? He froze the whole bucket and then tipped it on his head and it crushed his skull and killed him. That's Darwinism.
No, but I can imagine it.
Yeah. Darwinism at its best, that. And like, what did he think was going to happen? Idiot. Anyway. Thank you guys for coming on. Thanks everybody that's got in the comments. You've been absolute legends as always. As I said, we've got a few exciting things coming up. Matt's going to sleep, so we won't bother him.
I get tired at this time. I don't know what it is. Literally, as soon as it's like this time, I just start yawning.
My age, mate. I want to go to bed at 9 o'clock. Do you guys ever like get really tired at like 8:30? This Harris won't do this because Harris doesn't get tired. He's just like, look at him. He's the 19 child, really. But you get like tired at like 8:30, and then when you try to go to bed at 10, you can't sleep. I wish I got to bed at 8:30. But anyway.
See, I wish I had that energy. I take naps during the day, then stay up till 2. I'm bad.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to say this is the way to my colleagues for a reason. I'm just going to start yelling Jack McCree at people. And just see what they say. Anyway, guys, put some hot water. Yeah, I've got a bag thing, and I had it on my head before, but then I thought I had an hour. I thought it was 4 o'clock. So about 10 to, I was going to bed. I was going to go put my head thing on the back of my head and go close my eyes for 10 minutes. And I know it will shift it. And I got a message off Matt going, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "It's only 4 o'clock. I'm going to go for a nap for a little bit." I'm like, "No." I was like, "No." Jaffa Cree!
Jaffa Cree!
Laptop! How do I work this bloody computer? This is the way. Oh, no, this got it. And, yeah. So say we all. So say we all. I watched the Battlestar Galactica miniseries over the weekend. God, it's so good. So good. But right. Thank you guys so much. As always, you've been absolutely legendary. I have to just waffle for 2 seconds while I find the end screen bit, which I found.
Waffle.
We will be back next week. You know, at some point we'll do that beta movie, B movie video we said we were going to do. But then something about Stargate will happen again, or Star Trek, or something else.
Wars.
But we will see. Thank you so much, guys. We will see you next week. As always, say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.